Welcome everyone. Today, we are focusing on how to configure identity-based access for Azure files. This is a critical skill for securely sharing data in the cloud using enterprise-grade authentication. Let's get started. To begin, let's establish what identity-based access actually is. Traditionally, you might access an Azure file share using a storage account access key. The problem, that key provides full control over the storage account, bypassing granular access controls. Identity-based access changes the game. It allows users to authenticate using their centralized directory credentials over the standard SMB protocol. Why is this so crucial? Because relying on a single master key is a massive security vulnerability. By moving to identity-based authentication, you ensure that every single request is tied to a specific user identity, heavily reducing your attack surface. For our deep dive, this capability is exactly what allows enterprises to smoothly lift and shift legacy on-premises file servers to Azure without disrupting the end-user experience. They simply log in with the exact same credentials they've always used. Looking at this flowchart, the secure path is clearly visible on top. The user authenticates against a centralized directory service, which then grants authorized access to the Azure file share. At the bottom, we see the legacy method, the storage account key. Notice how it completely bypasses the identity provider, representing a direct, unmonitored path to the data. Our goal today is to implement the secure, identity-driven path at the top and avoid using the shared key for daily operations. Now that we understand the why, let's look at the what. What identity sources can we actually use? Azure Files is highly flexible and supports 3 primary Active Directory sources for SMB authentication. First, we have on-premises Active Directory domain services. This is the traditional AD environment you likely already run in your data center. Second, we have Microsoft Entra Domain Services, which is Microsoft's fully managed, cloud-based domain controller service. Finally, we have Microsoft Entra Kerberos, a modern approach that allows native cloud identities to use Kerberos authentication without managing any domain controllers at all. When should you use which? If you are running a hybrid infrastructure with on-premises servers syncing to the cloud, on-premises ADDS is your go-to. If you are entirely cloud-based, but have legacy apps requiring domain join, Entra Domain Services is the ideal fit. This tree diagram breaks down the 3 supported identity pathways. From Azure Files at the top, we branch out into on-premises ADDS, Entra Domain Services, and Entra Kerberos. Notice the specific use cases mapped below each option. The on-premises branch leads to hybrid scenarios. The Entra Domain Services branch supports legacy applications completely hosted in the cloud, and the Entra Kerberos branch leads us toward modern, fully cloud-native environments. To configure this correctly, you must understand the core architecture, the 2-tiered permission model. Identity-based access requires a user to pass through 2 distinct security gates. Layer 1 is the share level. Here, we use Azure Role-Based Access Control, or RBC, to determine if a user is even allowed to mount the file share over the network. Layer 2 is the file level. Here, we rely on standard Windows NTFS access control lists, or ACLs, to determine exactly which folders and files the user can read, write, or modify. Why is it designed this way? Because it perfectly replicates the exact same permissions model you've used for decades on traditional Windows file servers. For a deep dive scenario, remember that Azure evaluates both layers and enforces the most restrictive permission. If your RBAC role grants full modify rights, but the NTFS ACL on a specific folder is set to read-only, your effective permission for that folder is read-only. Let's walk through the user's journey in this flowchart. The user identity initiates an access request. It immediately hits Layer 1, the share level RBAC gate. If they lack the RBC role, access is instantly blocked. If approved, they move to Layer 2, the NTFS ACL gate on the specific file or folder. Again, if the local file permissions deny them, they are blocked. Only by successfully passing through both security checkpoints is the final access granted to the actual file. Now let's walk through the exact steps to implement this, starting with Step 1, enabling Active Directory authentication. What does this actually mean? It means we are going to join our Azure storage account directly to our Active Directory domain. The basics here are fascinating. AD will view and treat your massive Azure storage account exactly as if it were a physical Windows server sitting in your rack. How do we do this? Microsoft provides a specific PowerShell module called AZ Files Hybrid. You run the Join AZ storage account for auth complete. When doing this, you must run the script from a domain join machine using domain administrator credentials. Diving deeper, behind the scenes, this PowerShell script is reaching into your Active Directory, creating a computer object or service logon account, and generating the complex Kerberos keys required for secure, encrypted token exchange between your local network and Azure. This sequence diagram maps the execution of the PowerShell script. The domain admin initiates the command via PowerShell. PowerShell first communicates with your on-premises ADDS, instructing it to generate a new computer object and associated Kerberos keys. Once Active Directory confirms creation, PowerShell securely transmits those Kerberos keys directly into the configuration of the Azure storage account. The storage account is now officially domain joined and ready to accept identity tokens. With the storage account joined to the domain, we move to step 2, assigning share level permissions. This is our Layer 1 security gate. We need to assign Azure RBC roles to our synchronized Microsoft Entra users or groups. The basics require you to know 3 specific, built-in roles designed exclusively for Azure files over SMB. First, the storage file data SMB share reader role grants users basic read access. Second, the storage file data SMB share contributor role allows users to read, write, and delete standard files. Now for the deep dive, the third role is the storage file data SMB share elevated contributor. This role is absolute critical for administrators. Without the elevated contributor role, you cannot modify the underlying NTFS permissions or ACLs on the files. You must assign this role to your IT staff so they can configure granular security in the next steps. This flowchart maps the 3 critical RBAC roles to their effective capabilities. Starting from the top, we branch into Reader, Contributor, and Elevated Contributor. Follow the dotted lines to see the resulting permissions. The Reader gets read-only access. The Contributor gets standard read, write, and delete capabilities. But notice the Elevated Contributor highlighted in blue. This is the only path that grants the crucial ability to modify NTFS ACLs, acting as the bridge to our Layer 2 security. We are now at step 3, mounting the file share for configuration. We have to bootstrap the environment. What does this mean? Initially, no domain users have granular NTFS permissions on the root directory. So, we must mount the share using the storage account access key. Why? Because the access key acts as a superuser, allowing an IT admin to bypass identity checks temporarily to build the initial folder structure and set the baseline security. How do we do this? You can use the standard Windows netuse command or simply copy the connection script directly from the Azure portal, mapping the share to a drive letter like Z. As a basic networking constraint, ensure port 445 is open outbound, as this is required for SMB traffic. Diving deeper, mounting with this key completely bypasses our RBAC Layer 1 gate, temporarily giving you the ultimate authority to author those base NTFS ACLs before actual users log in. This diagram visualizes the bootstrap sequence. The IT administrator starts by obtaining the powerful storage account key, highlighted in pink. Using this key, they execute the mount command to map the Azure file share as a local Z drive. Because the key was used instead of an identity, the session gains superuser access, bringing us to the final state on the right where the administrator is fully empowered to configure the root NTFS ACLs. This leads us directly into step 4, configuring file-level permissions, our Layer 2 security gate. What we are doing here is defining granular access control using standard Windows NTFS ACLs. How is this done? It is beautifully simple. From the machine where you mounted the drive with the access key, you just right-click the folder, select Properties, go to the Security tab, and search for your local Active Directory users and groups. Alternatively, if you prefer automation, you can use standard command line tools like Windows icicles to script and apply these permissions in bulk. For the basics, you are simply granting specific departments read, write, or modify access exactly as you would on a physical file server in your office. Our deep dive takeaway: the changes you make via Windows Explorer are instantly pushed and preserved in Azure storage. From this second forward, any identity accessing the share will be strictly governed by these precise ACLs. Here we see the 2 paths available to configure our Layer 2 security on the mounted Z drive. The left path utilizes the familiar Windows File Explorer, navigating through the Properties and Security tabs. The right path utilizes the command line via icicles for scripted bulk updates. Both paths converge at the assignment step, where we bind our AD users to the permissions. Finally, this data flows into the Azure Storage Cylinder, proving the permissions are permanently saved in the cloud. To wrap up, let's summarize the end-to-end workflow and review our best practices for managing Azure files. What have we built? A fully secured, identity-driven file sharing solution in the cloud. The workflow is a strict four-step process. First, enable AD authentication on the storage account. Second, assign the broad share level RBC roles. Third, bootstrap by mounting with the access key. And fourth, lock down the granular NTFS ACLs. Let's discuss best practices. Enforcing least privilege means you must never distribute the storage account access key to your end users. It is strictly an IT bootstrapping tool. Furthermore, always assign your RBC roles and NTFS permissions to groups, never to individual users, to keep management scalable as employees join or leave. Finally, by relying entirely on identity-based access, you ensure that every single file interaction is auditable and irrefutably tied to a verifiable identity. Thank you for joining this session. This final linear diagram serves as your administrative checklist for deploying secure Azure files. You begin at step 1 by integrating the directory authentication. You move to step 2 to assign the layer 1 RBAC roles. You proceed to step 3, using the access key to mount the drive as an administrator. This allows you to complete step 4, locking down the layer 2 NTFS ACLs. Completing these 4 steps perfectly leads you to the ultimate goal, a fully secure, identity-based access environment.
Welcome to quicktechie.com. So just type in quicktechie.com here. Then you can go through the material which is provided by Quicktechie. So we have first of all video courses which you can go here and you can find the various video courses across the technologies as well as finance domain. So if you see in Microsoft, we have 8 programs currently running. Next, you can go through the ebooks available. So all the ebooks which are in PDF format today, and you can download this. So let me go through Microsoft certification ebooks. You can click on any of this and you can see this is the PDF available for you to download. So these are the premium ebook mostly available on quicktechie.com platform only. Now the second part is exam simulator. As we primarily focus on the all technology companies and finance domain certification preparation material. So this is company wide listed here and you can go through this. So let me go through the Microsoft one again. You can see this is all Microsoft related certification. AB 730 exam, if you open it, so you can see here this, and all the practice papers are available here. Today we have a 5 practice paper. So click on the first practice paper. It would load the questions. You can answer this question. This is way you can answer it and you can move to the next question. Now third material we wanted to highlight is an audiobook. So we started recently with the audiobooks as well, which you can listen on the go, and various technology wise ebooks are available. And at the last, this is our alumni. These people who are subscribing to our courses and this platform, they are all listed here. And at the end, I wanted to tell you, if you find any course or training or certification preparation material which you want to get us prepare for yourself, please put on the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, on Udemy, or on this platform itself, quicktechie.com, then please put the comment, or you can even send an email to using this contact us options here. You can directly do the WhatsApp message. You can call us on this numbers as well.